today to all. Welcome to our Stress and Anxiety in the Workplace, the Gathering Storm virtual boardroom, which is being facilitated by HR Recruit and CPC Services. My name's Jo Thompson and I'm a consultant for HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Nick and Tony from CPC, who will introduce themselves shortly. They're going to explain how their services are designed to sufficiently reduce stress-related absenteeism, enhance employee engagement, and ultimately drive sustainable improvements in organisational performance and productivity. If you've got any burning questions during the session, please put them into the chat box facility and we will cover them at the end of the session. I'm now going to hand you over to Nick and Tony, who will introduce themselves and start the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo, for that lovely introduction. I'm Tony. I'm going to be taking you through the deck. My colleague, Nick, is on the call. Do you want to say hi, Nick? Nick's just coming off mute.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today.
Great. Okay, so we're going to start off the session just so we can get representative view of where people are on their journey and their interest level in this content by running a short poll. So do you want to kick that off, Jo?
Yeah. Can you see question one?
I can see question one. I'm hoping everybody else can.
It's very highly skewed there. Can you see the percentages or not yet?
I can't see any percentages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll end the poll and show you the results because it's highly skewed.
All right. So question, wow. Okay. Yes, we've got some gaps, 82%. Very interesting. Okay.
Do you want the next poll?
Yes, please.
Can you see that one?
I can see that now. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. A bit more evenly skewed, but still, I'll show you the results now.
Okay.
Can you see those?
14 not started, 24 think about it, 54 development. That's great. Okay, thank you.
And the final one. Again, bit of a disproportionate there. Can you see those results?
Yeah, 62-38. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So that's very, very interesting data. Thanks for doing that, Jo. So I think a lot of you are obviously experiencing or thinking about the same things that we are, and that's the reason that CPC came into being. And we use this term, the gathering storm, because it seems like at the moment daily we see more evidence to suggest that the world has changed, and it's continuing to change. And in that situation, as organizations with employees, what we want to do is to give ourselves the best possible chance of creating the right work environment to continue to thrive and grow as the world continues to change. So here's a great quote from one of my favorites from Albert Einstein, who said, if he had an hour to save the world, he'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem. And I think we've spent more than 55 hours defining and discussing this problem. It's into the hundreds of hours now. But what we have seen and recognized is that there is a hangover from the COVID-19 lockdown. And this is just one data point. If you, again, look and type in long-term effects of COVID, you'll find these, the statistics and stats everywhere. So lots of organizations are suffering that, particularly if you've got young employees who were still in education at the point of the lockdown. We know that that has a severe impact on the people's kind of mental well-being. The other data point that is increasingly coming to the fore and in the news is the journey back to the workplace, having been working remotely. And if you follow the news, about 3 weeks ago, the civil service were threatening to go on strike because they were being asked to come back to the workplace, and they clearly didn't want to do that. So this is all exacerbated by the overload that people have in terms of what's going on in the social media, mainstream media, in the tasks they have, climate concerns, etc., etc. So what this has led to is in our kind of parlance, is a cognitive overload. And what happens in a cognitive overload, and again, there are lots of different data points and organizations that have looked at this. This is a McKinsey study, which suggests that, and this is very much in our thinking, that people move up and down what is called the mental health continuum. And as we look at it here, the left-hand side of your screen is flourishing, the right-hand side is languishing. I'm going to show a different model of this continuum later on, but effectively what the data is showing here is that when people are on the left-hand side, what employers should be thinking about is stress management and resilience training, programs to boost community and therefore productivity in the workplace, and policies to try and reduce burnout. And if you don't do that, or if you do that, you're still going to get a number that could possibly slide to the right, where therapy is needed, and we'll talk about why getting access to therapy is increasingly becoming a challenge. And in the worst case scenario, you could end up with somebody who is signed off long-term sick. I have a personal relationship with somebody that I know that is under 30 who has been permanently signed off from work. So this is a big challenge, and it is growing. So the future, if we don't look at ways of interrupting this pattern, is likely to see more and more examples of burnout. And this is not a new phenomenon. There's a lot of work being done on this. This survey is a little old now, but still incredibly relevant. It was conducted by two authorities in this space. So Dennis Stevenson, who's been a long-term campaigner for mental health, was the founding and chair of MQ, which is a charity designed to think about transforming mental health. And he was also very proactive in promoting a members' bill for the mental health discrimination bill. Paul Farmer, if that name is not familiar to you, has been the long-term chief executive of Mind, which is a very renowned and equality mental health organization. He's been the longest-standing CEO of Mind, and is just about to move on to be chief executive of Age UK, specifically to tackle mental health related issues in the elderly, such as isolation and loneliness. Mind, as we've already mentioned, have done a lot of polls recently. And one of the interesting statistics here is that when surveyed, 60% of employees said they were more likely to recommend an organization and therefore affect your great place to work stats if there was a mental health option in place. And what we feel is that a lot of organizations, in fact, I don't know of an organization that hasn't done something to try and combat this challenge. And one of the go-tos has been platforms that provide support, data, tools, references on this. And I'm just going to focus on three here today. There are lots globally, but three of the big well-known ones are Unmind, Together All, and Headspace. Now, all of these organizations provide great material online, either in an app or something you join via a browser. And Unmind has a particularly useful stat on its landing page where you've got this slider. Now, this slider, if you go to Unmind, is a live. It works, while you're there. You don't have to wait for the results. But it's just showing here, so you can calculate based on the number of employees you think might be stressed or suffering from mental health concerns. And that's a big question and debate in itself. But what it does show quite clearly here is that the days lost now through absenteeism due to mental health concerns is going up, and that creates a high level of cost to the organization. And the more people that are signed off through mental health, and I might ask Nick later to share an experience that he's recently had, the more people that get signed off, because you can't backfill, those remaining in the workplace become even more stressed and again slide to the right of that mental health continuum. So what we wanted to highlight here is that digital platforms for mental health are great, and everybody should explore that. The caveat is it's not always enough to just have a digital platform on your own. And again, the internet is littered with surveys and white papers. There are just a couple here by Thurmond, who is in the University of York in the science department, and Emily, and I've highlighted here what they're seeing with these digital platforms is a low utilization, which has led some organizations just to drop digital platforms completely, because again, the evidence that we're seeing and the conversations we're having is that an individual in work has access to these platforms, sees it as another thing that they have to do, and therefore kind of avoid it because they've got too many things on their plate. So what we're seeing and what we view when we look at this whole problem is that in the interests of efficiency, we've become less effective. And our view and proposition is that, it's time to go back for some old school. And the first pillar of that thought process is that prevention is better than cure. And this isn't just our thinking. There's a lot of organizations are saying it is better to have people stay on the left-hand side of the mental health continuum and give them the tools so they don't slide down into an area where they need therapy. And it's supported by lots of organizations. I've just come up with a couple here. The most recent and high profile of which is the Prevention Concordian for Better Mental Health, that again is saying in order for us to combat this challenge, we need to take preventative measures. Now, I'm not going to read the whole list here, but you can see in that list, there's a lot of very high profile, very well resourced organizations involved in this effort. So we've got the NHS, we've got the Department for Social Care, lots of local government organizations. So it is, a very high profile, very well supported process or very well supported theory that prevention is better than cure. The NHS have been providing prevention and talking strategies for a while. They're a big fan of cognitive-based therapy. And this is one of the cornerstones of the tools that we use in our process. But the challenge is, even with those available, and you can see here a couple of their tools, the anxiety self-help guide, breathing, relaxation exercises, even with these available, what the NHS is seeing is a very long waiting list if people do get to the point where they need a therapist. And is saying here it's 4 to 5 months. We've got some recent evidence that Nick found recently by Dr. Lade Smith, CBE, who is the president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. And the stats here are quite alarming that, there are 6.8 million referrals to the mental health services, and around 1.5 million people are still waiting to get their first treatment. This was an article in the Telegraph on the 1st of June. And her view is that most people now are waiting 12 months to get to a therapist. Now, the medical profession has what we think is a relatively blunt tool in order to cope with this. And again, this has been picked up by the government saying that we are over medicalizing people for what should be everyday challenges that with the right tools, the right coaching, the right mindset, they should be able to overcome. So, this term over medicalizing the population is true. And again, I have a personal experience with a number of people that I know personally that have gone feeling slightly down, and the GP being completely overloaded said, yeah, I understand. We'll get you signed up on the waiting list. In the meantime, take these, and that cannot continue in our view. So CPC's mindset is that anything that you do in line with trying to create a better culture, a better understanding, a solution to the challenge of absenteeism through stress and anxiety in the workplace has to be business focused. And we are businessmen who have teams that we need to keep motivated. So we've been doing a lot of what we're talking about now over the last 20 years without really knowing what we were doing, or certainly we didn't call it what it was. And I guess the expression you would say is that we were unconscious competence. We were promoting motivation and positive thinking. And we didn't call it mental health because there was so much of a stigma around that back in the 80s. And that, I'm glad to say, is tending to go away. And our view, our mindset is that this cannot be a cookie cutter approach because every organization's needs are different. You need to do something that's specific. So we want to, when we work with organizations, become part of and own the success in implementing this program. And that the program, in order to have the highest level of being effective, needs to be personal to the individual, and it needs to be a blended approach, not just a digital platform. So going back to this, mental health continuum, what we are suggesting here is that on the left-hand side here, where it says self-care and social support, we become part of that support infrastructure to assist your organization. And many of you will have already put things in place and you're skilled in this process anyway. We are probably not going to be telling your employees anything dramatically different to what you've been telling them. And we call this phenomenon the auntie coming round and getting your child to clean their room up. You've been telling them for the last 12 months to clean their room, because somebody who's not part of their home comes and says, hey, why don't you clean your room up? It gets cleaned up. We believe that we could be very effective in signposting people back towards the things that you've already put in place and getting the view of your employees to change their lens slightly to go, you know what, this is good stuff. I am actually now going to engage and try and use this facility that's been made available to me more. So the tools for the job are classroom-based workshop. We believe that there has been in this drive for efficiency a move away from face-to-face. So we are a strong believer, and we promote the classroom-based workshop to introduce people to the concepts, to the tools, and we give them reference material and tools to use as they leave that workshop, and then follow up capability that will be online and also telephone based to those that need it, and breaking down some very simple and commonly used tools into video format that people can dip into as and when they need to. So what CPC do is we have a fundamental building block of 4 elements. The first on the left here is an as is to be, and I'm sure many of you have heard that term as is to be. It's effectively a planning tool where we can come in and spend time with your senior leadership to help you define the problem clearly and what can be done, how that can be done more effectively, if you want help with that. Many of you will have already gone through this process and perhaps won't need as much. So, it might not, everybody's as is to be process or that definition of the problem can be, 2-3 days, or it could be half a day, depending on what you need. And then the 3 workshops are for the 3 levels of the organization: for the senior leadership, for the middle management, and we believe that the middle management are those that are suffering most with this challenge, and have to really be part of the solution. And then for the individual contributor or your workforce, whether that's, shop floor or back office or whatever it is, cultivating mental fitness workshop is a very highly interactive, short starter workshop where they leave with an understanding of the tools that are available to them and how to change their mindset. So CPC comes at this from a three-pronged attack. We have highly evolved business skills and managing people in high stressful environments, because all three of the senior leadership of CPC have been in the IT sector, which is renowned for high stress and burnout. We have some incredibly high levels of skill in the HR arena with Nick Wiley, who's with us here on the call. And one of our founders, Bob Woodland, has been in the learning and development and delivery of learning development. He's built and sold multiple companies in this space. So we think there's a good blend here of skill sets to provide delivery of the tools and the services we think will be effective for your organization. And then around the outside of the organization, we have associates, so we can scale for the delivery of these workshops with a network of associates who are CBT therapists, they're mental health first aiders, they are psychotherapy, well-being practitioners. So that's how we deliver. So the point to me, and this is a reference to the Matrix. If you haven't seen the Matrix film, there's a scene where it says, if you take the red pill, you go one way, blue pill the other way. This isn't a red pill, blue pill, quick overnight solution. This is an ongoing relationship with us. We want you, if you engage with us, to view us like you would your maintenance team for gardening or janitorial, that you use us as much as you need to. Some organizations will have somebody in every night to clean the office, some once a week, some once every couple of weeks. We will scale. We said we're not cookie cutter. We provide a service that's specifically tailored to your needs and is a long term. We're not a quick fix, come in, here's the magic pill, this is the panacea for everything, and then walk away and leave you alone. We want to be on your journey to create a number of outcomes. The first one is culture, and I'm sure many of you will have heard. If not, have a look online and understand who Peter Drucker is. One of his great sayings was that culture will eat strategy for lunch. And I've been a big fan of Peter Drucker for a long time and can confirm that that sentence is absolutely true. If you get that right, what you get is employees that are prepared to be innovative. They show greater creativity. They explore and become much more adaptable and resilient to changes and stress in the workplace. And, we're all driving for better customer interaction. So someone in your team that's suffering from stress may not be able to provide the best level of service for your customers. So this is what we drive for the outcome. So let me just finish, because I want to leave plenty of time for discussion here with Peter Drucker, as I've already mentioned him. And this is sort of our view of the world. Sometimes the drive for efficiency isn't always as effective as you need it to be. And sometimes, you might have something that's efficient and is workable, but it's not being effective because people's view of that capability or that service you're providing is not as it should be. We can help you with that. So from an HR perspective, one of our goals is to make sure anything that you've put in place, we leverage that to get you a better return on investment. Second of all, our core beliefs as an organization, as a group of people, that knowledge is everything in the current age in terms of your people. And if it's not challenged and increased consistently, it vanishes. I don't know about vanishes, but it's important to create a culture of continual learning, and that learning the individuals find enjoyable and useful and value. One of my favorite expressions when I ask people to say, look, bite the bullet, take the action here, because what we see is that whenever you see someone successful, somewhere along the line, someone's made a courageous decision to say, you know what, I'm going to take the stigma away from mental health. I am going to talk about it. I am going to address it head on because I believe it will give us, fantastic return, not only from making sure our people are happy and stay with the organization, but also an impact on productivity and ultimately the bottom line. So success I think we're past knowledge economy now, but this is still true as it was when this saying first came out, that if you create an environment where people really know themselves, their strengths and their weaknesses, and how best to perform, they will provide you with a far more competitive, robust organization where people stay, and you don't have the challenges with staff turnover and attrition and all the cost and complexity go along with that. So, our view of what CPC offers is an ability to empower minds, to elevate business performance through creating mental strength for success in the workplace. So CPC, you may have seen this in the material that you read when you booked for this. CPC is cerebral power conditioning. And we've called it that based on our minds are conditioned. Our subconscious mind is conditioned. If you've studied anything around this subject, the authorities in this space say that 80% of what we do daily comes from our subconscious, and our subconscious is like a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. And as we said at the beginning of this presentation, the world has changed. There's a tsunami of bad news, and human nature is we tend to hang on and link to bad news rather than good news, and that creates a downward spiral where people become stressed, they get high anxiety, and ultimately, if that continues, they're signed off work. Our goal, mission is sometimes an overused term, but it is our mission. If we can get one person feeling better and performing better and not start to slide down that continuum, then we're very happy people. I'm personally very happy people. It's a very personal mission for me. It's a very personal mission for Nick. And Bob, all three of us, when we talk about this, are very committed to providing an excellent, cost-effective service to help organizations get their people performing through feeling better. And with that, I'm going to stop talking now and open the floor for questions. I don't know if you've got any questions that have come up on the chat, Joe, because I haven't seen them.
No, there's nothing in the chat yet, but if anyone's got any questions, then please feel free to either come off mute or put them in the chat box facility.
And just as as people are thinking about that, I know sometimes it's very difficult. You might not want to have that conversation publicly because it's a sensitive subject. Our call to action here is, as our next step, what we're more than happy to do is to come and sit with your organization and go through a discovery meeting to establish if there's a good fit between, some of the challenges or the gaps you might have and our capability. And our view on this is, if we can't find a reason to keep talking after 25 minutes, then, we're happy to get up and go. We're not a high pressure organization. We are an organization that likes to work with organizations over the long term. We want to make sure that our solution is effective, and that it is costed in a way that will allow you to weave this into your budget over time, rather than say this is a huge upfront cost and not see any return for it. So if you don't want to ask questions today, you're more than welcome to email me directly. My email address is there, or call me directly on my mobile. I'm more than happy for that, and we can organize a one-to-one consultation, discovery meeting with you at your offices.
There's a couple of points in the chat.
Okay.
So Laura's put that she's watching from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
Mental health is still stigmatized here, particularly for men. Any tips on how to overcome it?
It's like anything, when you talk about something, it becomes less of a problem. I can't remember. I said to you, it was, if you haven't seen the film, there's a great line in Crocodile Dundee where he said, when anybody's got a problem around here, we tell Jack. Jack tells everybody else, and then it doesn't become a problem. What we've talked about today are talking therapies, and it's really important to talk about it. I would recommend, there's so much great literature online. One of the publications that we give to people that go on a workshop, I will send to Jo, and in the information she sends out to you. But you can't see me on my camera, but it's a CBT based book that talks about the tools, and often it's the simplest of things can make a profound difference. So some of the challenges we see are where somebody says, "Oh, we'll do that, and we'll do that, and we'll do that, and we'll do that," and it's just too much. It's overload. Sometimes just one thing. And if I was to say, what I've seen work best as a single action that people can take is to just find 5-10 minutes to be on their own and breathe deeply, relax, and then try and just unload what's in your mind. A lot of mental health and stress comes, as I said at the beginning, because there's this cognitive overload. And there's a lot been written on mindfulness, which says, focus on your breathing, focus on your heartbeat, focus on what's around you. And what that does is take the thoughts that are in your head, that noise in your head goes away, you become calm, and you unload. Now, that isn't, again, do it once and it goes away. That's a habit you need to get into. That's particularly useful for anybody with kids, by the way, as well, because they will just kind of pull your chain all the time. And it's great to say, well, I'm just going to go out 5 minutes. And I did it when my youngest two were growing up. Again, not even knowing what I was doing, I'd go and sit in the car for 5 minutes, play something on the radio that I liked, breathe deeply, relax, and go, now I can come back in. So stigma goes away if you talk about it. And if you there is lots and lots and lots of material online. If you can get access, look at the NHS Every Mind Matters. There's some fantastic reference material there to help you with that whole stigma problem.
John has asked, do you have any statistics from different sectors, the IT sector in particular?
Lots. we're drowning in statistics, and we can certainly share those with you. They are readily available online. The IT sector, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, has been one that has reported, a great deal of people suffering from burnout. There's been lots of, unfortunately, high profile stories in the news about very, very high profile organizations like Apple, for example, that have had challenges in this area with some of their staff in production facilities. So it depends on whose statistics that you look at, but I would say the two most challenged industries for stress and anxiety is IT and finance.
Okay, Sylvie's asked, do you only operate in the UK or also Europe?
No, we operate anywhere that people want us to go. So, we will always default to let's get on a plane and come and talk to you, and we're happy to do that. But we'll cover anywhere. And, as I said, we are actively recruiting associates. So day before yesterday, I was introduced to an associate who lives in Germany and is German speaking, speaks very good English. So, he said in Germany, and again, Nick had an example of this when he was talking to somebody last week from Germany, saying the situation in Germany is terrible and there is no infrastructure and support. We have to pay for it ourselves. So yeah, anywhere in Europe. It's always the nucleus of the organization are UK based and we're British speaking. So that's going to be where we can be most cost effective. But, I'm happy to fly to Trinidad and Tobago. I've been to both of those places and I love them dearly. And put together a workshop or an event to do a public event, if that would be useful.
Okay,
excuse me.
Sorry, go on, Nick. Sorry.
Or in answer to Sylvie, who I happen to know, to Belgium, where she is right now. Yeah.
Okay. Terry has put a comment to say, often poor management culture is to blame for employee and workplace stress. Is your offering aimed at changing that?
Yeah, so look, we from personal experience feel that the middle management often get the rough end of the stick here, because this is a very difficult subject. And the typical ratio, Bob Woodland, who's been in this business a long time, talked to me about a stat where the ratio of direct reports used to be 7-1. It's more like 11 or 12-1 now. So the line managers are particularly stressed and challenged by people that have mental health stress. So this is why we the most effective way for us to work with an organization is top down and bottom up. There is definitely benefits from anybody who is an individual contributor that feels stressed going on the Cultivating Mental Fitness workshop. And when we cover that material, people go, this is great. It's a half-day workshop. They walk out with some very practical things that they can do daily to help them. The middle manager workshop is probably the most intense, because not only do we have to help them understand how to de-stress, and they need to be de-stressed and not anxious to help their people, but then how do they help their people? They're not therapists, they're not paid to be therapists, but giving them some practical tools and a support infrastructure. So one of the services that we will offer is when we do a top to bottom, bottom to top engagement, we say, look, if you've got a challenge, if you need us to help you, you need someone to talk to about a challenge you're having, we'll help you do that. So culture changes everywhere, from the middle up and down, from the top down, the bottom up. So there's no right or wrong. There's no best start point. The best thing to do is just start.
Thank you. There's no other questions, unless anyone else wants to fire anything in there.
Tony, it's Nick. Is it worth just reminding everyone in the last few remaining minutes that our website will be up and running soon? Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so we've taken a bit of time to think about the platform, because as we scale, we will want to deliver some of our content online, some of that being video, some of it being gamification, if that expression means anything to anybody. So we've just taken our time, and we had hoped to have that website up and running by today, but we've had a few technical hiccups, but it will be ready very soon. And what I would suggest is, it would be far more beneficial for anybody that wants further information on this, and we be very, very happy to have those conversations, to contact us directly. My email address is there. As I said, I'm more than happy for people to pick up the phone and call me on my mobile, and we can organize face-to-face ideally, but if not, a Zoom call specifically for a company that wants to talk about this further.
Okay, there's nothing else in there. Are there any final comments from yourself, Tony or Nick?
I think for me, the summary slides here is for me probably the most important thing. That is, look at what you're doing and make sure that you're not compromising effectiveness through being overly efficient. That this is not a one size fits all, blue pill, red pill. It is a ongoing thing where you have to change culture over time, and that in the current economy, certainly in the current sort of marketplace around the world, your human resource is the most valuable resource in your business. And Nick is a very highly skilled HR person. He will tell you the same thing, that we need to make sure that we're looking after our people, and every tiny little thing actually does work. So don't not start because you think this is going to be huge. One of the that I recently gave to there's an organization in the UK called Men's Shed, where a lot of guys go to build stuff and to get a sense of community, and it's been highly beneficial, helping people with low mood and mental challenges. And I use a shed as an analogy. We put off cleaning the shed because we think, oh, we've got to take everything out and then we've got to put everything back in again, and I just don't have time to do that. Sometimes just taking the lawnmower out and putting the lawnmower back in a different position can change the way the shed is available to you. So this isn't about huge, great big, long-term, massive, highly costly programs. Sometimes, a half a day workshop with a booklet can have a huge impact on productivity and people's well-being.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. I shall just
Joe and Tony, if I may, in the last 2 minutes, CIPD, for those HR professionals out there who are listening, CIPD website, 29th of May 2024. In the UK, 16,400 workers permanently withdraw from the labour market each year as a result of either workplace injury or work-related ill health, many of whom would have stayed if they had better support. This is a significant loss of talent, skills, knowledge, and training investment to all organisations. Just leaving you with a quote from CIPD for those of you out there. There's plenty on there, as Tony said earlier. We're drowning in statistics on this. What we need to do now is find some solutions. I just wanted to add that, Tony. I hope you don't mind.
No, great. That's good. Good point, Nick. Thank you.
No, thanks for that. So
I'd just like to say, Joe, thank you very much for hosting us, and just thank everybody for joining, and hope that they found it useful, and don't hesitate to contact us if we can get together and have a one-on-one.
Thank you. So we'll send out some correspondence to everyone that's signed up for the event this afternoon, and I'll put a comment on LinkedIn. So if you would like a copy of the slides and or the recording, then please put a comment against the LinkedIn post. Our next events that we've got running on until September, but a link to sign up for them will be enclosed in the email. If anyone is recruiting, we've also got accountancy recruit, FD recruit and exec recruit in the group. Otherwise, I'd just like to say a massive thanks to Tony and Nick for your time and effort in putting everything together. And finally, to everyone for signing in. Thank you.